Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Annie would like to introduce you to John Joseph.
John's profile, as you can see, says he lives in Aberdeen and that he's a supervisor at Petrofac. "Hello, beautiful lady," he said. "I'm happy to see you." "Hi," said Annie. "It's nice to meet you." "What's your name, please?" he asked. For some reason that always annoys me. I mean, come on, if you send someone a friend request, you've usually looked at their profile, at least enough to know their name. "Are you telling me you sent friend requests and didn't even read my name?" said Annie. "That's a bit rude, isn't it?" "I'm sorry," he said. "My name is John Joseph. I'm a nationality of Japan, but I grew up in US, California, Los Angeles. That's backwards, if ever anything was." "Why did you emigrate to Japan?" asked Annie. "Sorry, my parents you from Japan. And you?" "No, I'm not from Japan," said Annie. "I live in England." "You live in England? Are you from England?" "Are you busy?" "Yes, I'm from England. Why do you want to know?" "I'm sorry. I want to know you better. Are you angry for me?" "Just seems a weird question to ask," said Annie. "What difference does it make? Why do you have Japanese citizenship if you grew up in the US?" "I'm sorry. I'm busy," he said. "I'll chat you later." "You mean when you've thought of an answer?" said Annie. "I was busy before," he said when he came back. "I'm sorry for delaying my reply. My mother was a Japanese while my dad was an American. I was raised by my father after they separated. I'm sorry if you misunderstood, Annie." "That doesn't answer the question," said Annie. "Why do you have Japanese citizenship if you were raised in the US? Try, I was born in Japan and my father never thought of applying for US citizenship for me. Or, I was born in the US, but my mother insisted on taking me to Japan so she could register me for Japanese citizenship. Or, I had US citizenship until I was 18, but I lived in Japan for 5 years and decided to apply for citizenship. Or, I'm sure you can think of a real reason." "Yes, I was born in Japan," he said. "I'm a citizen by birth." "Oh, phew," said Annie. "What do you do?" "I didn't apply for a citizenship. I told you, I was born there. My father was an American, while my mother was Japanese. I wasn't raised in Japan. I was born there." "Yeah, no need to go on about it," said Annie. "And you didn't tell me before that you were born in Japan. All you said was that you grew up in the US. So tell me what you do." "I'm a doctor, and I also am an investor. And you?" "I work on the checkouts in a supermarket. What kind of doctor are you, a GP?" "OK, that's a nice job. No, I'm not a general practitioner doctor. I am a surgeon." "Where do you work?" "I'm guessing in a hospital somewhere. Is it a hospital called Petrofac?" "I work in a pharmaceutical company. Here it is made of different sections." "Oh, so you don't actually work as a surgeon?" "Yes, I work as a surgeon in the pharmaceutical company. Sorry for the delay of the messages. I'm a bit preoccupied." "Why do the pharmaceutical company need a surgeon?" asked Annie. "Do they have lots of work accidents?" "They're involved in different sections of surgery, such as rhinoplastics and transplants." "I still don't understand why you do surgery if you work for a pharmaceutical company." And I don't think you're going to find many surgeons that do rhinoplasty and transplant surgery. I think they're both rather specialised. I don't think most would have time to train to do both. "Do you travel from hospital to hospital using the company products? And you're working in Aberdeen? Where's that?" "I work based on contract. Here is a large company. They are made of sections. They deal with drugs and other products." "No, I don't travel with the company products. I have a time span here based on my contract. I'm currently, guess what, here in Yemen, not Aberdeen." "Oh, OK. What does your company do in Yemen? Do they make their drugs there, or is it somewhere people go for transplant surgery?" "Yes, they make drugs, and they perform. That's the major purpose. Firstly, then they even more where other enlarged sections were added." Answers on a postcard, if you have any idea what that was meant to mean. "Now, they perform operations and other medical purposes." "OK," said Annie. "So if I find myself in need of rhinoplasty, Yemen is the place to go. If I find a rich man, I might get that done." "Yes, transplant section is also available there." Smiles. "Well, yes, my dear, But why would you want a surgery for your nose? You look good already. You see, ladies and gentlemen, you learn something new on this channel every day. Well, 3 times a week. Who knew that Yemen was the transplant capital of the world? That's very kind of you, said Annie. A girl has to keep up with the ageing process, don't you think? Yes, that's right, my dear. Age always catch up to us, but growing old is a blessing, my mother always says. Mothers are usually right, said Annie. Mine always tells me that she is. Yes, that's true. They're always right. You're a very nice woman, he said. That's very kind of you. You're welcome. I would love to get to know you more and more. Can we talk more via WhatsApp, if you don't mind? I don't use WhatsApp, said Annie. Ha-wa-ha-la, he said, whatever that was meant to mean. OK, do you use Google Chat? Yeah, I use that. OK, that's better. Send me your Google Chat email so I can send you a message there. And so, of course, they moved to Google Chat. Over on Google Chat, they got off to a good start. Hello, my dear, it's John, he said. Hi. How you doing, Annie? What's the time there in England? It's almost 2 p.m, she said. All right, here it's 5:35 now, he said, half an hour later, in case you're thinking there's a half-hour time difference. Tell me what you do for hobbies. I do yogic chair dancing and underwater watercolour painting. What are your hobbies? That's nice, he said, in true scammer style, because obviously the way to get to know the woman that you really decided you love is not to read anything that she's typing. I like to swim, cook, and I love to take a walk. What's your favourite season? You must be very busy, Annie. Text me when you're free. Spring, she said. What's yours? That's nice. I love the autumn season, winter and summer, he said, thus not answering his own question. Since you were busy, Annie, I would like to see more of your photos. What do you have against spring, she said. Photos of what? I have lots of photos of animals and flowers. I do, and I have been known to send them to scammers. I do sneeze a lot in the spring season, he said. I meant photos of yourself. My photo is on Facebook, she said. Yes, that's true. It's just one I would love to see more if you don't mind. Besides, what are you having for dinner? Because obviously that's how the conversation flows. It's 9 p.m, said Annie. What are you having for dinner? Oh, you must have made supper. I had macaroni for dinner earlier. Congratulations, said Annie. Let me see if I can guess your next question. As you can probably tell, I was in rather a facetious mood this evening. It was a Saturday night, and for some reason I was just winding up the scammers. Can't imagine why. My next question? How do you mean? He said. It's my bedtime now. I must sleep, Annie. Have a good night rest. Well, you've done what are your hobbies, what are you having for dinner, what's your favourite season, and I would like more photos. I'll tell you if I get it right when you ask. I'm confused, he said. Are you making fun of me? Your questions are very predictable, said Annie. It's almost as if you're working your way down a list. Are you making fun of me? I'm getting to know you. How would I be walking down a list? OK, tell me things about yourself. I don't know, said Annie. You'd have to tell me. You are not an outspoken person yourself, he said. Oh, try her, mate, try her. It's like talking to a teenager with a list, said Annie, not like talking to a mature adult. So, I'm trying to get the dialogue interesting, said our kid, who was working his way down a list. We were all kids once. Oh, yes, thrilling knowing that you had macaroni for dinner, said Annie. Carry on. This is a new day, he said. It is indeed. Tell me things about yourself, too, me, he said. I'd rather know about your career, why you chose it, where you trained, etc. I know so little about you, he said. Because you haven't asked any sensible questions yet, said Annie. You only told me you worked in a supermarket. You never elaborated. I chose my career because I loved what I did. You didn't even want to share a photo of yourself with me. Why? Said the man who doesn't even have a photo on his profile. I told you, I work on the checkouts at the supermarket. For how long have you been there? He asked. I've been there for 20 years. I started when the kids went to senior school. Before that, I worked part-time in the office of an estate agent. You still haven't explained to me all that garbled rubbish about being a doctor, but working for a pharmaceutical company in Yemen, not in a hospital. You could try and explain properly what you actually do. We all know that pharmaceutical companies make drugs and don't employ doctors to work in war zones. If you're going to continue pretending to be a doctor, at least type something that makes sense. That's a good career you've had, he said. How can you be so rude, telling me I'm pretending to be a doctor? It's really rude of you, judging me, when you have no idea about the field I work in. Because so far, everything you've told me about your career is garbled rubbish, said Annie. Why don't you tell me properly what you do, instead of claiming to do rhinoplasty for a pharmaceutical company that's actually an oil company in Yemen? You only pharmaceutical company makes drugs when you haven't even travelled half the country I have been, he said. You do know the difference between an oil company and a pharmaceutical company? She asked. You see, you can't even type a sentence that makes sense. What on earth does you only pharmaceutical company makes drugs when you haven't even travelled half the country I have been even mean? I know what a pharmaceutical company does. I know what an oil company does. And I know that pharmaceutical companies do not employ surgeons to do rhinoplasty. So either tell me who you really are and what you really do, or go away. Did I ever mention I worked with an oil company? Why all this attack on me, he said. You mean you admit you're using a made-up Facebook account, said Annie, copying and pasting the bit where it said, lives in Aberdeen, supervisor at Petrofac. Did someone offended you? Or you're rebelling against something? He tried. Then she copied and pasted the bit where she'd said, is it a hospital called Petrofac? And he'd said, I work in a pharmaceutical company here. It is made of different sections. Oh, now I see where you're getting confused, said our confused scammer. My profile hasn't been updated since. Oh, you've changed career, said Annie. Now tell me what you only pharmaceutical company makes drugs when you haven't even travelled half the country I have been means, please. No, I didn't change career, said our desperate scammer. And then start typing in proper sentences, the way a properly trained, experienced, literate, mature doctor would type. You sound like an illiterate street kid. You have one chance to prove to me that you're not an illiterate school dropout. One chance. LOL, he said. You're really funny. OK, so you're really a street cleaner in LA, aren't you? You never even graduated school, did you? Believe me, lying isn't funny, even if you think it is. Well, I didn't graduated school because I wasn't privileged. Well, you're smart. I give you that, said our very desperate scammer. Awesome, said Annie. So there's no way you're a doctor with all that garbled, ridiculous story. So tell me what you really do. I'm a school dropout, said our man, who felt a confession coming on. Trying to live is really hard here. What do you really do? She asked. Nothing, really. I'm truly to further my education. I was reading production engineering as an undergraduate. I stopped. Stop lying, said Annie. You already told me you're a school dropout. There's no way you did undergraduate studies. Where do you really live? As in really, honestly, truthfully, actually live? I am telling the truth, he said. I'm a Nigerian. It's really hard to live in this part of the world. Then find an adult literacy class and learn to write properly in English. I realise English isn't your first language, but I think it's the official language of Nigeria, she asked. Well, it's easy for you to say, he said, and to be fair, it is. It's easy to do those classes there, I assume, and if you really want a career, no one will employ you if you're convicted of stealing money, especially if you finish up in prison. Judge me when you've lived my life, he said. Yes, replied Annie, it is your life, and it is your choice how you live it. And I'll bet you claim to be a Christian, who apparently hasn't read the 10 Commandments, including the bit about thou shalt not steal. I bet you haven't stole anything yet, he said, because you're privileged. And again, that's true. Amazing how now we're talking about a subject you know about, and really getting to know each other, you find you can actually write sensible sentences. Why did you drop out of your engineering course? I type so fast. That's why I miss it. I write and I speak English well. I'm not an illiterate. You assume I am. Oh, yes, you are, mate, when you're trying to talk about being a doctor and working for a pharmaceutical company. Then even you must know that all that garbled rubbish about pharmaceutical companies made absolutely no sense at all, because it all sounded illiterate, said Annie. And even you know that you only pharmaceutical company makes drugs when you haven't even travelled half the country I've been. Didn't make any sense at all. Yeah, it does, he said, because I wasn't actually serious with you. How much money have you stolen from people? Asked Annie. I just wanted to see how it goes, he said, as they all do. None will ever actually admit to having taken money. Why would you ask me such a question? I am not a thief, he said. You just wanted to see how being a criminal would work as a life choice. Except she mistyped that, as you can see, if you're looking at the screen. Life, he asked. Of course you're a thief, said Annie. Sorry, yeah, life choice. If you really can't see that stealing money from people makes you a thief, a liar and a criminal, then you're more stupid than I thought. Please stop all this, if you're here to judge me, he said. Good idea, said Annie. Go away. I wish you total failure as a thieving, lying, idiotic criminal, and success in finding a better life path that you can tell your family about. Goodbye. I wish a good life, he said, and disappeared into the ether. And I genuinely do find it sad how many of these young Nigerian men are potentially ruining their lives. Because sooner or later, some of them will get caught, some of them will get sent to prison, and some of them will then find that they're unable to find a job. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it, please share it, please comment down below, please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you again in another video.